What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. It's 4 p.m. The franchise tag deadline has passed. The Giants did not use their franchise tag or transition tag on either Saquon Barkley or Xavier McKinney, and I have a lot of thoughts about this. I have a lot of feelings. I'm not too happy about the Giants' treatment and handling of the Xavier McKinney situation. The Saquon Barkley situation, we'll unpack that as well, but really the Xavier McKinney decision, that's the big shocker here. We knew that the Giants weren't going to franchise tag Saquon Barkley for a second offseason in a row. Saquon is going to hit the open market. We'll see what's out there for him. It is a saturated market. We know he has some interest from some teams, but really, I don't know if he's going to get paid the money that he wants. Maybe he does. The Giants don't seem too inclined to pay him over $10 million per season. But Xavier McKinney, on the other hand, this is the one that confuses me. The Giants don't have a whole lot of good players on this team. Let's put it flat out. Let's be blunt about it. This is not a good football team. There are holes all over this roster. The few good players that you have, wouldn't you want to keep, especially if they're young, continuing to play well, especially when they're a captain and they played 100% of your snaps this past season? I don't know. We're going to go ahead and dive into all of this. I'm just giving you a little preview about my feelings on the situation. Some of you might disagree with me. Some of you might be fine with this move by the New York Giants. That's totally okay. I'll respect your opinion, but I'm going to go ahead and share mine because I have a strong one about this situation as a whole. So we're going to dive into all that, but before we do, make sure to leave a like if you enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? I'll let you pick which one you want to talk about first, Saquon or McKinney. We got a lot to unpack today. The Giants made some very interesting decisions ahead of free agency. Whichever one you want to go ahead and discuss, go ahead, and then I will happily share my strong opinions on the topic.
Well, let's start with McKinney because we've talked about Saquon 100,000 times. We know the situation with Saquon. They'll let him hit the open market. And look, the Giants don't want to be paying him more than $10 million per season. It's obviously the right decision, in my opinion, in terms of letting him see what he can get. Maybe he gets nothing and he comes back with open hands saying, give me whatever you can. That's probably what ends up happening. I've seen a lot of people say, he may not get more than $8 million per season. And, the Giants obviously could give him $8 million. It's not that much for a player of his magnitude and obviously the leadership he brings. But I think he wants to see if he can get a little bit more. So I get that. But Xavier McKinney is a whole different ball game, right? I get the sense that McKinney wants to reset the safety market. I know Jordan Raanan said that he thinks estimates, he said that people, sources, whatever, executives think the estimates will land around $14 million. Well, McKinney shares the same agent as Derwin James, and I do believe that he probably wants Derwin James money because he thinks he's a top 5 safety, and most of the grades would suggest he's a top 5 safety. He's one of the best tackling safeties in football, one of the best coverage safeties in football, plenty of turnovers, obviously a versatile weapon you can use at strong safety, free safety. You'll line him up in the box. You can put him at slot corner. You can do so much stuff with a player like this, and he's just going to be 24 years old. This is a really good young talent, a linchpin piece on the Giants. And look, the Giants don't have anything invested in the secondary. We have no veteran pieces. We have really nothing. We have Jason Pinnock, Dane Belton, Deontay Banks, Trey Hawkins. We have nothing there. So why not invest a little bit in the secondary? At some point, the Giants are going to need to have to spend a little bit of money. And having that key piece roaming the secondary like McKinney certainly makes a lot of sense. At $14 million, in my opinion, that's an easy yes. I don't think that's what he's asking for. I think that's what the estimates are, but I think McKinney's probably asking for $19 to $20 million per season. And I'll ask you this, Anthony, because this is probably aligns with more of the conversation that we should have in terms of his value. Do you think the Giants, with the state of the roster right now, should be resetting the safety market for Xavier McKinney or matching what they gave Derwin James got? How do you think? Let's assume that's what he's asking for, to kind of reset the market, get the top dollar. Do you think the Giants should be doing that with the state of the roster right now?
Well, I don't know how to answer that because I don't think that they have to do that. All they had to do is transition tag him, and then whatever he gets offered by the teams that he negotiates with, that's what the Giants decide whether or not he's worth that. They don't just have to give him what he wants. It doesn't have to be Xavier McKinney's like, okay, I want $20 million, I want $19 million per season. Okay, well, we're either going to or not going to give that to you. You could transition tag him, let him go see what's out there for him. He could say, hey, this team, Team X, Team Z, Team Y, what are you offering me? And then, okay, Giants, here's what I was offered. Now you have the opportunity to match it. If the highest offer that he gets is 13, 14, or 15, the Giants could pay that. If they decide, okay, we're not going past 18, so if he gets offered 18, 19, 20, they don't have to pay that. It doesn't have to be up to the Giants. It doesn't have to be up to them to reset this market. They did not need to put themselves in what is now an irresponsible and tricky situation. They could have transition tagged him, let him negotiate with other teams, and then decided whether or not he was worth what he's being offered. They don't have to wait until he's an unrestricted free agent, able to just accept any offer anywhere and just leave without telling the Giants. Now he can go negotiate with a team and just accept their offer, never pick up the phone call from the New York Giants. That's the situation that they put themselves in. That doesn't make sense to me. That is my issue with this whole situation. If he wanted $20 million and the Giants felt like that was too much, I understand. You can say goodbye to him. You could just say, okay, we're not going to pay you that. But you don't even know if he's going to get that. You don't know what he's going to be offered. He might only get offered $12 million per season. And are you not going to say that that's like a bargain at this point? I mean, I just don't get it. So your question there, like I get where it's coming from, but in terms of resetting the safety market, the Giants don't have to do that. But now if they want to keep Xavier McKinney, they might have put themselves in a position where this is the only way that they can keep him, is by resetting the market. Had they franchise tagged him, transition tagged him rather, they're not in this situation. All they had to do was transition tag him, and then at the worst case scenario, he doesn't come to terms on a deal with any other team or the Giants, and they pay him $13.8 million against the salary cap for this upcoming season. That's also a possibility. But that is it. Just 13.8. We're not talking 17, 18, 19 resetting the market. We're talking 13.8, which I think would make him, what is that, the 7th or 10th highest paid player in the NFL at his position? We're not talking about a whole lot. We're talking about a fair value there at 13.8. And if he does get a higher deal, $16 million, okay, well, how about the salary cap just went up by an astronomical number this year? It all will balance out, but that's where we're at now with the New York Giants. They didn't have to reset the market. It's not about whether or not they should be doing that. They didn't have to do that. Now, if they want to keep him, maybe they do. I don't know. But the transition tag was the tool at their disposal that they could have used in order to get negotiating leverage. Now they don't have any. They have zero leverage over Xavier McKinney. He wants to leave. There's nothing stopping him. He can go ahead and just leave. And that's my issue with this New York Giants decision. Even if they were to have transition tagged Xavier McKinney, I believe that at least gives you the opportunity to trade him at the deadline in the 2024 season. Now they don't have that. He's just going to leave if he wants to. They cannot stop him. And that's my whole issue with this situation. I just don't think that the Giants should be allowing a young 24-year-old player who just played 100% of your snaps, is a captain, is one of the best tackling safeties in the NFL. All of these traits that embody Xavier McKinney and how much value he brings to this team, I think it's irresponsible for the Giants to let this young player hit the open market with no safety net. The transition tag would have been their safety net. So it's not about resetting the market, handing him a contract that pays him an exorbitant amount of money. It's really just about the fact that the Giants are letting him go with no safety net. So now if they want to re-sign him, they don't. It's up to Xavier now. It's no longer up to the Giants. And that's just the situation that I don't think they should have put themselves in. I mean, let's look at it this way, Alex. Who are the Giants paying? Who are they paying instead of Xavier McKinney? Who are they tying up all this money to? Daniel Jones, who's not going to be here in 2 years. Dexter Lawrence, who will be here. Andrew Thomas, who will be here. Darren Waller is under contract through 2026. He won't be here by then. Bobby Okereke, he'll be there. Graham Gano, he'll probably be here, but we'll see. He's getting up there in age. And then the draft picks from this last draft class, 2023, plus Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, if they pick up their fifth-year options. Probably only one of those guys is getting their fifth-year option picked up. So essentially, 3 to 5 big contracts on the books through 2026, and that's it. Other than that, the New York Giants aren't paying anybody, nobody of significance, nobody that's really worth handing that money over to. So why not pay Xavier McKinney? I don't understand. And maybe you can help me. You could clarify it, Alex. Maybe you give me some points. But when you're hearing those names, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, Bobby Okereke, Graham Gano, those are the only guys through 2026 who are going to be under contract. The rest of them are currently on rookie deals, or you're talking Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. That's it. The Giants aren't paying anybody in the future. So why are they not paying anybody in the future? Why do they not feel like it's worth investing in a 24-year-old potential Pro Bowl player for your future? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. Maybe you've got some different thoughts and opinions.
So I'll throw one thing out there. So just to give us a little bit of a blanket, the McKinney can't start negotiating with other teams until next Monday. So we have 6 days for the Giants to continue, negotiating exclusively with McKinney. It's 100% possible that they come to an agreement by then. I know they just had to decide on the tags, whether it was a franchise or transition tag, and the Giants could have kept negotiating throughout that process. But I think maybe similar to Saquon, it was This is a total shot in the dark. Maybe Joe Shane kind of being a good faith situation, being like, McKinney, we're not going to tag you. If we can't hammer out something, we're going to let you test the open market, but whoever gives you the top offer, please come back to us. We're trying to show you some respect and let us match it. I think, and look, McKinney has been very vocal about this on social media. He does not want to be tagged. Transition, franchise, he does not want to be tagged. So, like, to your point, the Giants should have just figured out an extension earlier. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have to come down to the tag or waiting or, trying to wait for him to figure out what the price is or whatever. So I think this is an act of good faith from Joe Shane to say, we're not going to tag you. We're going to let you test, but please give us the final chance to match. If not, we can find a common ground before Monday and maybe hammer out a contract extension. I think that McKinney wants top dollar. I think that he'd probably, the way that you speak about him, you probably agree. He should try to be getting top dollar for his services. The Giants should not be, so my take here is that if he's demanding $20 million per season, I don't necessarily think the Giants should be the team to reset the safety market right now. I'm thinking more so along the lines of like this good faith narrative. So we'll just play out that kind of narrative right now. If that's the case, I don't think the Giants are and their team and roster are in a position to reset the safety market, which I think is a justifiable take. However, I don't think anyone's going to reset the safety market for Xavier McKinney. I think they would have for maybe Antoine Winfield, who, I know you think that they're kind of both in the same range, and I think that Winfield's probably a slight step higher just based on his consistency long term, and having won a Super Bowl and proven success, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think that, obviously the Buccaneers tag him. He's probably pretty pissed off about that. He wants to be long-term, extension with guaranteed money. But, what are your thoughts on this idea that maybe Joe Shane said, look, we know you don't want to be tagged. We're not going to tag you, but just come to us with your best offer to see if we can match it. If we can't hammer out something leading up to Monday and, it just doesn't come together. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like they're giving Saquon Barkley the chance to go find a new deal, but I think that's more so like they just don't want to pay for the running back, whereas this is a little bit of a different scenario. It's definitely an interesting situation. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I feel like McKinney's been pretty vocal about his worth and what he wants, and maybe Joe Shane's not willing to bend the knee for $20 million per season or $19 million per season. Are you would you pay him $19 or $20 million? I'm curious.
I don't know. 19 to 20 mil is a lot. It is a steep number. I probably wouldn't go up there. He's not Derwin James. He's not up there at that level. But the idea that they would need to reset the market or pay him that, this is why the transition tag exists. This is my whole point here. This is why I'm upset. I'm not upset that the Giants didn't get the deal done. And I understand that they still have 6 more days to get the deal done. And I hope that they do. And I'm going to be upset if they don't get the deal done and he goes into free agency completely with no safety net. My problem is that they didn't need to reset any market or hand him any contract. If they put him on the transition tag, you just said, Alex, that you don't think he would have gotten a market resetting deal on the open market. You don't think he's going to get one. Okay, so then that's why he should be transition tagged, because that means that you are willing to match any offer that he gets, because it's not going to be record breaking. So transition tag him, find out what he's offered, and then match it. That's what the New York Giants should do. But now they don't have the luxury of pulling him back in. If he wants to leave, he can leave. That's my whole point here, is just that they didn't bring in the safety net of the transition tag, and I don't know why. It personally does not make sense to me. That's the big thing here, is you're talking about he's not going to reset the market. He's not going to get that money. Okay, if he does, though, and you had him on the transition tag, then you just say, okay, we're not going to match it. Goodbye. Have fun. Farewell. But now, if he goes into the open market, he just could say no to you. The Giants didn't. Okay, so I get the good faith thing, right? The Giants they're trying to be in good faith here. The Leonard Williams trade, it was good faith deal. They gave him the opportunity to veto it. Personally, man, screw that. Put him under the lock and key. Don't let a good player leave. That's how they should have treated this. This is a good football player. You don't have many good football players on this team. This is a young football player. This is a good leader in your locker room. Do not let this guy leave without having the opportunity to tell him that he's not allowed to leave. And I understand. And this is coming from a guy who thinks Xavier McKinney is awesome. I'm a huge fan of his. And I know that he doesn't want to be transition tagged. I know he doesn't want to be franchise tagged. Okay, I don't care if I'm the general manager. Transition tag him or franchise tag him anyway, because if you don't, he could say, F you, I'm leaving for nothing. The Giants should not have put themselves in an opportunity where this player can walk away without them getting any sort of opportunity to match the contract. Because now I get what you're saying, the good faith thing. They're going to let McKinney go negotiate, and then hopefully McKinney comes back to them and says, here's the deal that I got. Can you match? or sweeten this deal. Okay, but the Giants might not get that phone call from Xavier McKinney now. He's not required to tell them if he gets one of those deals. This is a good faith thing, and the Giants are basically leaving that up to chance. They shouldn't have done that. That's just where I think the transition tag comes into play. And I'm slowing down here because I have a little bit of a head cold, but I got a lot I'm trying to say about this, but just my whole idea here with this good faith thing is that you're being naive if you're the New York Giants and you think that this is all going to happen in good faith. This is a business, right? We have had that conversation about how the Giants have treated Saquon Barkley like this is a business. Why would Xavier McKinney not treat this like this is a business? He's going to go get the bag, and because he doesn't like the fact that the Giants didn't give him the bag, he has no responsibility to report to them what he was offered by another team. He can just leave. So good faith, whatever. Call it naivety to me. I don't think that the Giants should have done that. They should have at least put him on the tag. You can rescind the tag too, by the way. You can tag somebody and then untag them. That is possible. Maybe that had to be done by today, but maybe they could have tagged him a while ago and had this decision done. Just because you tag him doesn't mean that you're locked into the player either. There are still ways to move off of the contract and move off of the player even if you tag him, but just to have no safety net flying into free agency, this open market, you don't know what's going to happen, and now you have no promises from McKinney, you have no promises. Anything can happen now, and that's just where I think this is irresponsible and naive from the New York Giants. They should have gone into this and given themselves some sort of leverage. They have zero leverage now. All they have is, guys, we treated you nicely. We did this in good faith. That's naive to me. This is a business. We always talk about teams treating players like this is a business. How about the players that want the power here to make their own decisions? They're going to start treating teams like this is a business. That's what Xavier McKinney can do to the New York Giants now. He could say, this is a business. I'm going to go take my talents wherever I want. The Giants are going to have no say in it. So I know you asked a question. I give you these really long-winded answers because I think there's a lot to unpack here, but that's just how I feel. I feel like this is maybe the Giants being a little bit naive, going into this thinking, we did right by him, hopefully he does right by us. He does not have to. He doesn't have to report what he gets offered by other teams. Now, if he was on the transition tag, the Giants would have a 100% guaranteed opportunity to match those deals. Now they don't have that, and that's why I'm upset the Giants didn't give themselves a safety net to negotiate with a really talented young player.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll play the other side of it in that this could be Xavier McKinney asking for more than he's worth. You know what I mean? This could be a situation like I agree with you. Giants should be looking to extend Xavier McKinney. They should be looking to bring him back. He's a key piece in the secondary. You barely have anything invested there. But maybe McKinney's making this a hard time. You know, maybe McKinney's saying, and he said it on social media a bunch of times, like, yo, I want to be paid like my worth. I am a top 5 safety. I want to be paid like it. I want to be paid like more than just a safety. He thinks he's a lot more than that. And like the stats would suggest, he's very versatile. He can do a lot. He's had one great season and he's young, and expectations is he'll have more great seasons. Played every single defensive snap as one of the leaders on this team. And I ultimately think that maybe this is on the side of like Joe Shane's looking at this like, we want to pay you. We want to bring you back. But what you're asking for is too much for us. It's too much for anybody. We're willing to see if anyone will pay you that. And he's like, this is what I think I'm worth. If you tag me and don't let me, and the transition tag would allow him to negotiate with other teams. But I think like this good faith kind of concept where Joe Shane is willing to let him leave because, it's just too much for them to spend on a player that, this roster is not good enough right now to have, to be paying a safety $19 million. What I'll say is this: the kind of underlying message this tells me about the situation for the Giants right now is that they're looking to shed money. They clearly don't want to pay Xavier McKinney top dollar. Otherwise, they'd already done it, right? They don't want to pay Saquon Barkley. Why are they letting two of their linchpin pieces walk? If they wanted Daniel Jones to be the guy, why are they letting two of their quality best players leave right now? Right? If they wanted to win with Daniel Jones in 2024, why are they shedding their roster of some of their best players? Right? That's the question I ask myself. To me, this kind of insinuates a rebuild. To me, this kind of insinuates who can we keep on this team to reduce salary, invest in other players, and build around a rookie quarterback that sheds a lot of money, and that way we can build up over the course of 4 to 5 years and not, 2 to 3 years. So, maybe this doesn't correlate to McKinney's extension or Saquon's extension, but What I do feel as though the Giants are going to do is they're going to, they have two linchpin pieces. They had to sign Dexter Lawrence. He's one of the best defensive players in the game, objectively. Had to keep him. Andrew Thomas, one of the best left tackles at a position that is really hard to fill. Had to keep him. Those are the only two players. And, Bobby Okereke's contract is cheap, $10 million per year for one of the best linebackers in the game. That was an easy one for us. But I'm curious to see what the Giants' strategy is here. Like, this kind of, to me, feels like we're rebuilding. This kind of feels like what a rebuild looks like. You know what I mean? Like, what it should have been when Gettleman took over, instead of spending $200 million in one offseason and grabbing, like, Damon Snacks Harrison and Janoris Jenkins and Olivier Vernon. We should have been rebuilding our roster from the ground up. Are you getting the same vibes here? Because it kind of feels like this team, like, letting McKinney, letting Saquon go, this feels like what a whole-scale rebuild looks like before you take a rookie quarterback. I don't know if you get the same vibe, but, if they let these guys go, that's the kind of hint that I'm getting. That's the kind of feeling I'm getting. I could be 100% wrong, but you don't let linchpin pieces go if you want to win in the near future, right? You let linchpin pieces go because you don't want to pay them while you develop a young player, a young quarterback. But then again, young quarterbacks can win in this NFL. So it's like, you can win with these guys. It's a tough, I don't know. It's interesting to think about.
I hope this isn't the Giants' idea of a rebuild, because this isn't how you do it, in my opinion. I mean, to the point that a lot of Giants fans have made in our comment sections, you cannot draft a rookie quarterback and put him in this situation and expect him to succeed. If you continue to let all of your best players just walk for nothing and not add any talent to this team, then I'm going to agree that you cannot plug a rookie quarterback into the situation and expect him to succeed. If the Giants just keep letting all their best players walk, by the time they build up this roster and get it into a competitive situation, that rookie quarterback window is going to be closing because you're paying him on his fifth-year option or on the franchise tag or on a long-term extension now. The Giants, I don't get this. Like, okay, so I get where you're coming from, Alex, where it's like, reset the roster, start from the ground up, like, let's rebuild with the quarterback in mind. But to an extent, you can't do that because you do need some talent on this team, because the way to take advantage of having a good quarterback on that rookie deal is by surrounding him with good players, right? So if the Giants don't have any good players anywhere but have a good rookie quarterback, by the time they add enough pieces around him, his rookie contract is over. So they need to keep some of these good players. I get it. Rebuild, reset this roster from the ground up. You still have to have some key pieces in here. McKinney's one of those players. And you could argue Saquon Barkley could have been one of those key players. You still need a weapon. Do the Giants have a game-breaking weapon? A guy who could put up 100 yards in any given game now? No. Darren Waller's not that guy. I love Darius Slayton. He's not a player who's a threat to put up 100 yards in any given game. Saquon Barkley, he is a threat to do that. Maybe a rookie quarterback that you draft is a threat to put in 300 plus yards per game. That's possible. But who's he throwing the ball to that's getting him all of that yardage? Giants don't have that. So yes, we talk about building from the ground up, building around these rookie quarterbacks and everything. To some extent, there needs to be some talent on this team and on this roster in order for that rookie quarterback's rookie contract to be maximized. So I get where you're coming from, Alex, and I see the argument of resetting and how this might indicate that the Giants are shifting towards rebuilding and going after a rookie quarterback. I see that as well. I think we've talked a lot about that. We think that the Giants are making moves to get a rookie quarterback, but in terms of winning while the quarterback is on the rookie contract, you only maximize that contract by having talent on your roster. The Giants are actively allowing talent to leave their roster while they're about to become financially flexible. That's another part of this that doesn't add up to me. You know that you're about to get out of this Daniel Jones deal. Probably have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, right? So you know you're about to get more flexible with your money. Why not pay the talent that's on your roster when you know you're about to become more financially flexible? And add in the fact that the salary cap keeps rising by an astronomical amount every single year. There's never going to be more financial flexibility for the New York Giants than the day when they cut Daniel Jones. So if you're trying to get flexible now with the rookie quarterback on this contract, why are you letting your talented players walk away for nothing in free agency? So that's my response to like that idea of rebuilding. Yes, I see it. The Giants are definitely trying to rebuild right now. And in fact, last year Joe Shane said that they were in year one of a rebuild and went to the playoffs. Now they're in year two of a rebuild and they kind of missed the mark on the playoff thing again. He did say that this is still a rebuild. So I get that. They are still rebuilding this roster, but just the argument that I'm making here is you can't maximize that rookie quarterback if you have a stinker of a team surrounding him. And isn't that kind of what we've talked about with Daniel Jones? Okay, let's look back on 2019 offseason. Don't you guys think that Daniel Jones would have been a little bit better, would have had a little bit more success if Odell Beckham Jr. or some sort of wide receiver was in that lineup along with him, rather than just Golden Tate being his best option and Evan Engram? Daniel Jones, we talk all the time about how the Giants failed him, how they didn't put the right team around him. Is this not what they're doing right now? Are they not failing to put a competent football team on the field for this next rookie quarterback that comes in? I don't care who it is, Caleb, Jaden, Drake, JJ. They're going to step in with a crap roster around them, and they're not going to succeed now. And I'm not saying that definitively. Like, this is where we're headed, though, because the Giants are not keeping the talent on their roster. They're not adding proper talent to this roster. That's the only argument that I want to make just against the idea that this is a full-blown rebuild, because you're right, it probably is, but we've seen a lot of teams do these full-blown rebuilds with very little talent on their roster, and unfortunately they're unable to maximize the talent of their rookie quarterback because of that. If the Giants do end up going with a rookie quarterback and they don't have any talent on this roster, I'll have my questions about whether or not he can actually reach his ceiling. They should be keeping some of their pieces, and yes, that includes guys on the defensive side of the ball. Sometimes having a really good defense makes you have a better offense. We know that from this last season because the Giants' offense was so freaking bad. The only time they could score was when the Giants' defense forced a turnover, put them in position to score. So Xavier McKinney, by the way, was a pretty big contributor on 3 of those interceptions, a few forced fumbles, was a contributor on getting the team in position to score some of those touchdowns. So, but I'll digress on that point. But really, my main point here is see where you're coming from, Alex, but this roster is so bad right now that they do need to actually retain some of these players in order to put a rookie quarterback in position to find success.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I'll throw another situation out there for you to consider. If the Giants pay, and look, Jordan Raanan said on the Michael Kay show, they're preparing to invest heavily in the offensive line. That sounds like free agency, not the draft. To me, let's say they go out, like I'll kind of throw this scenario out there. Would you rather go out and sign Mike Onwenu to play one of your prime guard spots and Jermaine Illuminor, or only get Jermaine Illuminor and bring back Xavier McKinney? Like, obviously 2 different situations. Probably pick McKinney there. But I think it's interesting to consider, like, protecting a rookie quarterback with a great offensive line or investing at the safety position. Let's just say you have to do either or.
Yeah, and my take on this is I'd rather invest in the player that I know, right? It's like you fear like what you don't know, the enemy that you do know versus the enemy that you don't know, like the classic sayings. That's what this is to me, because let's think about when the Giants signed Nate Solder. Oh, Nate Solder was a franchise offensive tackle for the Patriots for years and years. Of course he's going to continue to be a franchise offensive tackle wherever he goes. No, not the case, because you don't actually know this guy. You don't know why he's been as successful as he has been at this other team. He's in a whole other team, in a whole other culture, another environment. Yeah, you might think Mike Onwenu, excellent player, and I do think he's an excellent player. And if the Giants were to sign him, I'm going to be thrilled because I think he's going to project as a very solid tackle. But haven't we seen the Giants sign a whole bunch of players in free agency that don't pan out? Haven't we seen them have a bunch of players leave in free agency that go on to have much better second halves of their career? John Feliciano, Eric Flowers had a much better career once he left the Giants. We see this stuff happen all the time. And it's because when you sign these players in free agency, and Joe Schoen has made this point before in this press conference, this isn't just a me thing, guys. This is a Joe Schoen point that he's made. You're signing these guys from other teams. You don't know them. Like, you don't know who they are. You don't know how they're going to fit in with your culture and on your roster. So that's why you prefer to keep the guys that you homegrown, right? The homegrown guys that you have developed and have turned into good players in your system and in your culture. Guys like a Xavier McKinney, who's been here for 4 years and knows this area and knows the players and knows the personnel and the front office guys in the building. When you're bringing in these other guys in free agency, there's way more risk involved than re-signing a player of your own because you don't know this guy. So I would prefer Xavier McKinney plus Jermaine Illuminor because, yes, I think Illuminor is still an upgrade on your offensive line, and you do know him because Carmen Bristolo just was coaching him. With Mike Onwenu, there's more risk involved because he's coming from a very different offense, a very different system, in a very different location, and we know the culture is completely different. Who's to say he has success here with the New York Giants? I think he will if the Giants do end up signing him. I'm not going to change my mind on that. But just my point is, signing these free agents and playing this game of like, we'll let this guy go so that we could sign this guy. And like, that's my point here. I see Giants fans are like, I'd rather sign Kevin Byard for half the price of Xavier McKinney. He's also 7 years older. 7. That's a dude. That's like a generation. That's a large age gap. 7 years older. His play is about to start declining. You're getting what you pay for there. You're getting half of the player. Half of the price means half of the player in that respect for half of the time, because McKinney could still keep playing football for the next 8 years at least. You're probably getting 2 to 3 more years out of Kevin Byard before he either completely falls off or retires. So I think that this game that Giants fans like to play is very Madden-esque. It's very much like, oh, I don't want to sign this player because I could sign this player in free agency and just plug and play. It doesn't work like that in football in the NFL, because these aren't players. These are people. Like, we are talking about people and putting them in situations to succeed. McKinney is in a good situation right now to succeed. And that's another point that I'll bring up, my last point before I hand it back to you, Alex, just because I keep seeing a lot of things on social media. I keep having all these ideas. Landon Collins. People are bringing up Landon Collins when the Giants let him go. That was the right decision. First of all, Landon Collins is 2 years older than Xavier McKinney is at this point. Second of all, he went to a terrible Washington football team. Terrible team. That's where he went and signed on to. Of course, he played worse, because we know, and I brought this up before, and PFF experts and football experts, GMs have brought this up, safety play is dependent on who you're playing with and the culture and the system that you're in. So Landon Collins went to a new team. It didn't work out because he was with this new team. In my opinion, who's to say that if the Giants held on to Landon Collins, that he wouldn't have continued to have a good career with the New York Giants, because he was playing so well in the Spag system and in that culture and in that defensive scheme. So you can always bring up these comparisons and say, like, McKinney is the wrong decision to pay because Landon Collins, paying him would have been a bad idea back then. First of all, that's a big what if. You don't know that because he went to such a crappy Washington team. Maybe he goes to a different team and has a very successful second half of his career. Totally possible. And then also with Xavier McKinney, he's not the same player as Landon Collins. He doesn't have the same limitations in his skill set. And just saying we can let him walk so that we could sign this great offensive tackle, I don't care how great the offensive tackle is. How many times have we seen, like, amazing players? Actually, here's a perfect example, Alex. Kenny Golladay. Everybody thought that he was a Pro Bowler in Detroit. He's going to be a Pro Bowler wherever he signs. Top of the market player. You're getting what you pay for when you sign him. And then he ended up sucking, caught 1 touchdown pass, never from Daniel Jones, with the New York Giants, and was off this team after a year. Do you guys really think that every free agent that you sign, have we not learned this lesson? Every free agent you sign does not immediately pan out and just remain the star that they were with the other team. But the players that you re-sign are more likely to pan out because they've been in that system and that culture. That's the point that I'm trying to make here. So if you're asking me, would I rather re-sign McKinney versus this, and, I'm always going to say take the homegrown talent, because it's the player that you know versus the player that you don't know, the person that you know versus the person that you don't know. You know that you can continue to develop this guy and he could continue to succeed in your system. And when you sign these other guys from other teams, it's always a huge unknown, like it was with Kenny Golladay, like it was for many other teams that have signed players in free agency that have gone on to be massive free agent busts.
Yeah, so before I'll let you sign off here, the last thing I'll say is this. If the Giants do, in fact, let Xavier McKinney walk in free agency, one of two things need to happen. Either Mike Onwenu or Danielle Hunter need to be in Giants blue on day one of free agency. That is the only thing, and the only way that I can justify letting McKinney walk is if the Giants bring in Danielle Hunter, sign a quality CB2, not just a quality CB2, and find themselves a good safety, a good free safety who can pair with Dane Belton, Jason Pinnock, whoever plays strong safety for us next year. I know it's not the exact scenario we'd like. Of course, you want to get McKinney and Onwenu and Hunter, but I think there is a world where the Giants let McKinney go and they take that money and say to themselves, well, do we value a guy like Danielle Hunter more, or do we value a guy like Xavier McKinney more? I think that's a conversation they might be having with themselves.
And I get that, but again, my point is Danielle Hunter, 31 years old, has spent his entire career with one team. 29, okay, but still, he's about to turn 30. He'll be 30 during the 2024 season. Mm-hmm. He spent his entire career with the Minnesota Vikings. Who's to say that he changes scenery and doesn't lose a step, doesn't regress because he's in a new environment that he's never played in? Like we saw with Kenny Golladay, and we've seen with so many players who are really good on one team for a long time, then they leave and they're just not the same player. They're like a shell of their former self.
It could totally
happen. And that's
happen.
the risk. That's the risk you run, and that's why I say pay the homegrown talent.
Yeah, no, and I get that point for sure. The counter argument would be McKinney has one truly elite season out of 4 years, and who's to say he doesn't regress from last year? You could apply the same thing, but I do think that we know who he is. He's a leader, good player for the Giants, has played well in MetLife, creates those turnovers. Like, we know he's a good player. We also know Hunter's a good player. I'm just trying to say, like, from a positional value standpoint, if the Giants are like, we'd rather spend the $20 million on Hunter than McKinney, I could see where their logic would lead them to think, like, let's apply it elsewhere. Or maybe they're like, we don't want to spend. We have this much that we want to spend on the offense and this much we want to spend on the defense. If we pay McKinney, we probably can't get a top premium pass rusher and a quality CB2. But we can get the CB2 and the pass rusher and then find ourselves a serviceable free safety in the meantime, or draft somebody and hope they develop. Like, that's, there's different, I think they're trying to weigh the options here of, the opportunity cost of letting McKinney walk and the opportunity cost of signing him. If you sign him, maybe you can't get the top free agent pass rusher. Maybe you can't get the quality CB2 you wanted. So I get, like, why they're trying to get him down to the price they feel comfortable with, because I think and I've been saying this for a while, I think the Giants these days with Joe Schoen follow a very set specific equation. Like they're following an equation, an algorithm that suggests anything more than this number has net negative value. Anything like at this number and below is a net positive value. I think they've become a lot more analytical in their ways, just based on the way that their draft board is situated and all the numbers they've incorporated and the data behind it. I think they do follow some sort of algorithm that suggests this is good, this is bad. It's not just a gut moves anymore for the Giants like it used to be with Gettleman and his binder. I do think that, I'm trying to play the middle ground here because, like, I love McKinney, would love to keep him. But there is a price point where I say I don't think it's worth it. Just like you said before, like 19-20, not worth it. But we just don't know what he's asking for. If it's 14 to 15, it's an easy yes for me, and it's not even a conversation. But if he's asking top dollar, and you could say to yourself, we could pair Kayvon Thibodeau with Daniil Hunter, or like, there's other I know, Brian Burns and Josh Allen both just got franchise tags, so they're not available anymore unless via traded, which I don't think the Giants would do. But Hunter, obviously 29, could still be a very good player for 3 or 4 years. And like, I'll say this, he's 29 years old. He could be a great player for the next 3 years. And McKinney, will probably sign a 4-year deal out after the 3rd season and would move on from the Giants anyway. And you'd probably get similar value. So like age, yes, it's different. But, Hunter has the correlation with Andre Patterson. I'm just kind of throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks right now. But like, I get why they're being cautious in the way that they probably know they have this much money, and if we sign McKinney, it compromises our ability to go and address other positions. So I understand the fact that they're trying to be cautious in the sense that they're favoring positional value. Just like we've talked about Saquon Barkley not paying running backs, I do think that they're using a similar model with the safety position, which generally speaking, you don't want to overpay if you have the opportunity to go get a star pass rusher, right? Like that's probably what they're thinking in their head logically. And that's why I'm sitting here like, I got to see what they do before I really hammer them. But if they don't do what I think they're going to do, I'm going to hammer them. I think that will be my final take.
And that's a fair take. And listen, like, I could be wrong about this. Tomorrow, Alex, they could sign him to an extension. Totally possible. Like, they could keep negotiating through because, like you said, the legal tampering period isn't until Monday. So they have all this time to plan this out and still negotiate with McKinney. Just my point here, and the reason that I'm annoyed with the situation, the reason that I'm upset, is that the Giants gave up their leverage. And that's something I don't like to see this team do. The only real point that I'm making in this episode, and the one that I want everybody to walk away with, is that this is naive of the Giants to consider this a good faith decision, because now, yes, they have an agreement, a verbal agreement with Xavier McKinney's agent that if he gets an offer elsewhere, they're going to hand it back to the Giants and let them match it. He does not have to do that. He is not required to. If he was on the transition tag, he would be required to. That's where my issue lies with this decision. So I just think that the Giants are being naive with this good faith thing, and that they should have taken advantage of the tools at their disposal and given themselves leverage with the transition tag, because it is a business at the end of the day. So they do have to treat it like a business the same way McKinney is going to go into free agency on the open market and treat it like a business. That's my take that I want you guys to walk away with. So Alex gave his final take. That's my final take. That's what it is. This is going to change. We've still got almost a week until free agency. The lot can change between now and then. Maybe McKinney says, maybe comes out and says, I never wanted to play for the Giants. I wanted to leave. And okay, so then there was nothing that anybody could have done about this. He doesn't want to be here. You can't force him to be here, right? So that's possible. Maybe the Giants do go into free agency day one. Oh, we signed Daniil Hunter. We signed Michael Wayne. And we signed all these players. And we're all happy. I probably still won't be, because I do want Xavier McKinney back on this team. But there's a lot that's going to change here. That's just my one take that I want everybody to walk away with, is that using the transition tag was a way to build in leverage to the negotiating table. Now they don't have as much leverage, and that's where I take issue with what the New York Giants did today. So that's really it. It just boils down to that. It's not like I'm going to be super pissed, revoke my fandom, and say that I'm no longer a Giants fan if they don't re-sign him in the offseason. It's not going to happen, guys. I'm still going to be a Giants fan, still going to be here providing you guys with awesome Giants content on Fireside Giants. I just think that the Giants could have gone about this in a smarter way where they gained more leverage at the negotiating table. They gave away some of their leverage, and now I think it could cost them, and it's a risk that they did not need to take. And it's totally possible. Next season, McKinney leaves, and he has a terrible season elsewhere. But that goes into my point here, guys, where it's like, when you sign with a new team, you might not be the same player that you were with the old team. The Giants know what they have in McKinney. I'd rather pay the guy that you know than the guy that you don't know, and I think a lot of teams should feel the same way. So that's just my point. Long-winded conversation here. We didn't talk about Saquon too much. You guys know how we feel about that. We're going to see what he gets offered on the market, and if the Giants re-sign him, we're not going to be upset about it. If they don't re-sign him, we're also probably not going to be upset about it. At least that's how I feel. We'll react to that once those deals finally get processed and done here. But yeah, a little bit of passion from me in this one. I'm a little annoyed here, but still Giants fans, still looking forward to next week once free agency finally does kick off. And again, got like 5 more days. Maybe the Giants will get a deal done with Xavier McKinney. It's totally possible. And if they do, I'll be super happy and passionate on the episode where that happens. So we'll continue to update you guys on everything surrounding the New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below. Like and subscribe on Spotify. Leave 5 stars and all that good stuff. Follow us on Fireside Giants on social media at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.